Writer's Dream. This is a show where folks can talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. You can find us on LTV eh.org. Just click on the videos and you'll get a listing of shows. You can watch us there. You can also see us on YouTube. Just look for Linda Maria Frank. There are other Linda Franks, so I have to use my middle name. And we're on Facebook. The page is The Writer's Dream, and you can see former uh, recordings of the show. We are also on Cablevision Long Island Channel 20 at 3 p.m. on Fridays. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest today. And our guest today is Kasey Rogers. And Kasey is a woman of many talents and varied experiences. She's written two books. One of them is called Our Better Self, which is a memoir, and The Color of Frost, which is a historical fiction mystery, which are my favorite types of books. Okay, so Kasey, tell us a little bit about yourself. You have a really varied experience.
Yeah, I'm multi-passionate. I guess that's how to put it. I absolutely love writing. I started out in theater, but I figured if I was a writer, I could play all the parts. So
That's funny.
yeah, so I actually wrote a musical where I was the composer, the lyricist, and I wrote the libretto. And I'll tell you how persistent I am. I started this project in 1983. I got pretty far in New York in the theater scene. And I took a break when I had twins when I was 42. So I was commuting back and forth from the Poconos into Manhattan. And I said, this is probably not the best time to be working on this. And I put it away for a long, long time. And then just recently, within the last couple of years, a friend of mine said, well, you should look at that. And he was the perfect person to help me because he also decided to play the lead. And we just recorded yesterday the last song, and we've got it all on. It's a digital recording so that we can market it and promote it. So I am a very persistent person.
I would say so. So this is a musical?
It's a musical. It's called The Incredible Murder of Michael Malloy, and it's based on a true story about four men that lived during the Great Depression. And in 1933, one of the owner, the speakeasy owner, was taking out insurance policies on indigents. And what he would do is he would murder them and collect the insurance money.
Nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy. Um,
And you made a musical out of this.
yeah, I tend to like dark comedy.
Well, this is like there was a very famous one. You'll know what it was. Sweeney Todd.
It's kind of like Guys and Dolls meet Sweeney Todd.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so the gist of the story is basically when Michael Malloy, this indigent, he was an alcoholic, but he was a former fireman. I did all of the research on microfiche and the New York Public Library, and I got the whole story. And of course, I changed things around so that it was more dramatic. But they had to try 33 times before they finally murdered this man. So again,
Sounds
it's a
like
dark,
Rasputin.
yeah. Yes, exactly. Sweeney Todd meets Rasputin meets Guys and Dolls. Those are the
Sounds like a winner to me.
yeah. I think it is. It's a very funny kind of, again, dark comedy. So that was my first foray into writing. And I never in a million years thought I would sit down and write a memoir. I wrote a memoir called Our Better Selves to
Mhm,
deal with the impact of being in an emotionally and financially abusive relationship.
mhm.
And it was very difficult to untangle my feelings because I was with my husband for 25 years. And the thing that a lot of people don't, I thought, oh, this can never happen to me. I mean, I was working in Manhattan, making lots of money. I worked for some of the biggest ad agencies in the world. I, had an education. I saw other women. I didn't get married until, late in life. And I was like, I am an independent woman. I will never let something like this happen to me. But what happened with me was because I was working in Manhattan and I didn't really see my husband all that much except for the weekends because I had to leave for work so early, things just emerged very, very slowly. Like a lot of women, it's that frog in the pot. If you put it into a pot of boiling water, it's going to try to jump out. If you put it into a water and then turn up the heat, you don't actually realize it a lot of times what's going on. And I was one of those people that until I had my kids and decided that I could no longer do the commute, it's 5 hours every day, and I wanted to stay home with my children, the overall abusive tactics weren't really apparent. He had done things like trying to isolate me. He emotionally abused me, verbally abused me, but they were all things that happened again so slowly and so sporadically. I never put the equation together.
Well, I think what happens to women who have a career,
Hmm.
who have an abusive relationship, I think what really happens is that you are busy with your
Hmm.
career. You are
Hmm.
busy with your career and your other job, which is raising your
Hmm.
children and creating a home, that you're not paying attention to it
Hmm.
as much. You're just sloughing it off because you don't have time to think about it.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really realize it. It came to me at one point when he became so controlling, and especially financially,
Mm,
because even though I made gobs of money, it went into joint efforts. And when I quit my job, the only job I could get when I was living out in the Poconos was I was basically building websites and, doing freelance work. So I didn't have the resources to leave him. And it was kind of like this very weird stroke of luck of what happened. He lost his job when my kids were about 6, and he was of French Canadian heritage, and he had always wanted to move to Canada. We had had a vacation home in Canada, and so but we had sold it, and he wanted to buy another one. So we did. But we bought an income property, and we figured, okay, well, we can live in part of it and we could have this business together. We could be with our kids and we could reinvent our lives. But 4 months after we moved up there, he took a job back in the States, leaving me with my twins and a brand new restaurant to run.
mhm.
And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because when he was away, because he only came up, sporadically, like every couple of weeks or maybe once a month, I could breathe again. I could be myself again. And I started to realize how I had been walking, the very familiar expression is walking on eggshells. I walked on eggshells all the time. The
Mm.
anxiety, just even knowing that he was coming up and going to exert his control over me left me in a panic. Um, I was up there for about 4 years with my kids when he pulled the wool out, or the rug out from under me and insisted we move back to the States. And I got back there with the intention of leaving him. And the only reason why I left Canada was because I couldn't deal with the immigration issues on top of running a restaurant, on top of like legal bills and everything else. So I moved back with the intention of leaving him, and I couldn't find a job. It was in the middle of the recession. This was 2010. And a couple of weeks before I landed my first job, I got a job as a chef at uh, uh, like a, what do you call it, a casino. We found out he was dying of cancer. He was given 2 weeks to live.
I,
He had been walking around with a broken neck because the cancer had eaten through his vertebrae. And I really felt like I had no choice but to stay and to see it through. Again, we had been married for we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary months before he died. The aftermath of his financial abuse left me and the kids penniless. They were 13 when he passed away, and he had refused to get out life insurance. He told me why. He said, "I don't want you to profit from my death," not thinking about the fact that we had 2 kids, and I had a property in Canada. I had no resources in the state that we were in, and life was a mess. And the only thing I could do I was living in the community that he had grown up in, and he was very well known. I couldn't speak about it because if I did, I felt like I was walking into, that experience, or, people talk about it. He was the pillar of the community. He was so loved. I can't believe that he ever did things like that. And that's what I mean, even my friends, I didn't even talk to my friends about it because some of my friends, like, particularly one conversation I had was with one of my close friends, and she asked me, "Well, if it was so bad, why did you stay?" And at that
can I
point,
ask you a question?
sure.
So the book is pretty much follows everything that you've said, and this also has given rise to um, this. I don't know if it's an organization or it's a chat line or what it is. Of I know why they stayed. Is that what gave? I mean, obviously that's what gave rise to it. But what exactly is that? I know why they stayed.
Okay, so I turned the memoir Our Better Selves into a second edition, and I renamed it, and it's called I Know Why She Stayed.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, and it's an initiative, and what we do is we use the memoir, and we created something called well, it's not unique, but we created something called a reader's guide.
Mhm.
And what the reader's guide basically does is take the text of the memoir, which again was originally Our Better Selves, but what we did was we broke down the abusive behavior and married it to the text within the memoir so that people could see, oh, that's what gaslighting is. Oh, that's what coercive control is.
So it's
So
like a self-help book.
yeah, it's kind of like a self-help book, but what it does is it validates the victim's experience because I would never use the word abuse. Abuse was a word that caused me shame. It made me feel like I had done something. And I'm not a perfect person, but the behaviors that he exhibited were to control me. And he did. He controlled me financially. What we did once, and I say we because I have a co-founder named KJ Harowick, and she wrote her part of there's actually 2 memoirs in this book, and we turned it into a 4-pillar program called um, Rise and Rebuild, 4 pillars to oh god, now I'm forgetting it. It's called 4 pillars to rise and rebuild. So it takes a victim through the memoir, through the reader's guide, but also provides them in one central place all the tools that they need to recover from the abuse. So it talks about self-care, how it's important to rebuild your self-esteem. What do you do to rebuild your self-esteem? Then it uses writing therapy. We have like an integrated writing therapy that we've kind of invented using existing models, but integrating them. And then the fourth pillar is basically it's an escape plan. What do you do if you don't have any money and you're
Mm.
trying to get out? What do you do with pets? How do you find a job? How do you stash money? How do you leave safely? Simple tips like do not tell your abuser that you're leaving because that escalates the anger. That is like one of the most dangerous times that a person can leave. And if your abuser knows that you're going to leave, they might seem calm, but like I have a friend who experienced this. She has an organization called She Is Me, and that's when her husband tried to stab her to death through a plate glass window and caused her to run around the house while he was holding a butcher knife. And that is not an isolated incident.
No, I know. It certainly isn't. And the interesting thing to me is that one of my favorite genre of books to read are Victorian mysteries.
Mhm,
There's always a female character, and they talk about the fact that in those days, if a
mhm.
woman divorced, she lost her children, she lost everything.
Yeah.
And so we've made progress, obviously, but
Mhm.
it's still the same
Yeah.
scenarios, the same, because the woman, if she wants to leave and the husband doesn't want her to leave,
Mhm.
jeopardy in so many different ways. I mean,
Yes.
most of the time, she doesn't get murdered
Yeah. Yeah.
or beaten up or whatever, but she tends to lose uh, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes her ability to even work and make money. So
Mhm.
it's certainly something that's needed,
Mhm.
and it's a great calling and a great program that you've had. So um, I really am having you on this program about your book, The Color of Frost.
Okay, the 2
What
intersect.
I would like to give you like a minute or so to before we get on to that to just make one final statement about your work here to help women redeem themselves. So, I should say, not redeem themselves, but
No, I know what you meant.
reestablish themselves as
Yes.
a free
Rebuild.
person
Yeah.
who's able to take care of herself. One more statement, and then we'll get on to the color of frost.
Okay, and I'm glad because the color of frost is actually the blueprint for the initiative, and I'll tell you how they intersect.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So the most important thing that we also have available is we have a resource guide so that when people are looking for the resources, what do you do with your pet when you're trying to leave? Do you need services because you're deaf and you don't have, you need an interpreter or you speak a different language? So all of these things are available on our website, I Know Why She Stayed, so that people can find their, like what they need. But the other thing that most people don't understand is the danger that women are in. When this statistic will tell you how dangerous it is, and this is verifiable, you can look it up on the internet, but the number one cause of murder in pregnant women in the United States, I mean, the number one cause of death in the United States for pregnant women is murder.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So what we did was we also created a tool that's on a hidden flash drive that is in a pen that women, it's all password protected, and like somebody that needs the program but they can't get to a domestic abuse shelter, maybe the like right now we're experiencing horrible funding cuts for all these programs.
Yes.
Our pen goes into communities and is available so they can take the entire program with them. They can stick it in their purse. It's password protected and they can also put documents and whatever they need on the pen because there's enough room on the flash drive. So that's another thing that we aren't distributing these yet, but they will be available sometime within the next 6 months.
That's great. That's really great. And what's your website?
It's called iknowwhyshe stayed.org.
Okay, very good. So, the color of frost. How does this impact on your program? We have about, I would say, 6 minutes left. So,
Okay. I'll tell
what is
you
the
very
insight?
succinctly. You mentioned Victorian mystery novels. The Color of Frost is centered in 1974. And that was a time when women couldn't get a mortgage by themselves. They
That's
sometimes
right.
couldn't get a bank account. They weren't allowed to get into college. So all of these things intersect with that year. There it's all based in history. It's a historic kind of mystery, but the woman that's at the center of the story is also financially abused. And she needs to navigate around that with a husband that, like, she put through dental school and he decided to leave her, but he didn't want to leave her when she still had financial resources. He wanted to leave her after he had robbed all those. So the story, is very centered in look at what we've achieved since 1974. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose all of these rights. We're already starting to lose them.
Hmm.
And so by the end of the novel, the woman that is at the center, the main character, is put through some very, very difficult moments. But when she recovers from those moments, she starts to open up um, domestic abuse shelters throughout New England because it's centered in Kittery, Maine. But she realizes that she could open up 100, 1,000 domestic abuse centers. It doesn't address anything more than a crisis.
Hmm.
In order for us to make sure that women have equality and they have the same resources, we have to look at the root problem. And basically, we are in a systemically financially abusive uh, society where the gender wage gap, women are charged more for credit, women have like something called the pink tax against them. So with our program, I've basically worked with a group of other writers. We're all writers and proud of it. And what we did was we came up with some absolutely novel ideas for how to address the root causes of domestic abuse and go beyond the hotlines, the shelters, and some of the more traditional services. And that's why we created the pen.
Mm.
So it can go into communities, and we're a community driven program. Um, and it's all based in the color of frost. That was where the blueprint was.
So, but actually, in the book, it takes place really in two times, does it not? Oh, she discovers some letters from the past.
Yeah.
And what's in the letters? Are the letters? What time period are they from?
The letters are from World War II, and they're from the woman that used to live in the apartment that the main character, Nina, had to move to because she had to basically rent out space in her home.
Right, but what was in the letters?
They're all love letters from the woman that used to live in her apartment to her late husband who was killed in the war.
I
But
see.
she also finds I don't want to reveal too much, but she
Okay.
also finds other things besides the letters that help her move on to, like, for her life. And Lilia is a fantastic character, and she lived in the 1920s, and was basically an orphan. Both her parents died, so she was raised by her closeted uncle. So there's a lot of social issues in The Color of Frost. It deals with anxiety, depression, gay rights, women's rights, multiculturalism is what they used to call, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the fights. Like 1974 really is a mirror for some of the things, but it's in reverse. It's trying to take us back to a time where women didn't have those kinds of rights.
Mhm.
Gays didn't have those kind of rights. All of the things that we're seeing, transphobia, like all of those things are built into the book as a mirror for what we're seeing today in our society.
Yes, we're definitely under attack, shall we say?
Yes. Yes, we are.
I know. I don't mean to laugh
Yeah.
about it because it's not funny.
Yeah.
Um, I think that your two books sound like they're, first of all, your program sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
And I hope that people who are listening will be able to take advantage of it. And do you have any other books planned?
I actually want to write another play.
Okay.
I have a first draft of a novel already done, but I have a play in mind that I am very passionate about. So, yeah, yeah.
Well, we're pretty much moving to a point of we're out of time. This has been so interesting.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I wish you great success with this, and I enjoyed the interview tremendously. And I urge people to look into your books and your program. So
Thank
thank
you.
you
And if they
so
want to
much.
share our hashtag, hashtag I know why she stayed. If you've ever been in a financially abusive relationship, those 5 words tell your entire story.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. How do we do on time? Oh, good.
I love the title of your show too, The Writer's Dream. That's
LTV's programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts, with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature.